You're staring at your phone, and your hands are literally shaking because you just did something dangerous. You stayed silent. You didn't reply to the guilt trip. You didn't defend yourself against the latest accusation. You finally chose your own peace. But instead of feeling free, you feel like a monster, because right there on the screen is a message that says, "I finally see your true colors. You're so cold, it's scary." If that sentence makes your stomach do a backflip, you aren't cold, and you aren't the toxic one. You've just walked into a psychological catch-22 designed to make your boundaries look like abuse. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how the vulnerable narcissist flips the script so that the moment you stop being their doormat, you become their villain. What you're feeling right now is a specific type of mental fog called cognitive dissonance. It's that exhausting tug-of-war in your brain where you know you're a kind person, but you're being told, with total conviction, that you are cruel. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's a mechanism called the victim-villain flip. You see, unlike the loud, arrogant narcissists we see in movies, the vulnerable narcissist doesn't use power to control you. They use fragility. In their world, they are always the injured party. Because they have no internal sense of, "I am okay," they rely on you to be their emotional lung, to breathe for them, to soothe them, and to take the blame for everything that goes wrong. The moment you set a boundary, like not answering a text or gray rocking, you stop being their source of air. To them, that feels like an attack. And because they can't handle feeling like the bad guy, they have to project that badness onto you. If they feel hurt, it must be because you are hurting them. Understanding this isn't just about learning a new term. It's about realizing that the guilt you feel isn't a sign that you did something wrong. It's actually proof that your empathy is still intact. And that's exactly what they're using to keep the trap closed. Let's get your clarity back. Stage 1, the silent boundary and the immediate check-in. The trap begins the moment you decide to protect yourself. Maybe you've started gray rocking, which is a method some people find helpful, where you become as uninteresting and unreactive as a gray rock. Or maybe you just stopped over-explaining your feelings. The mechanism here is hypersensitivity to rejection. To a vulnerable narcissist, a boundary isn't a healthy limit, it is a threat. They have an internal radar that is constantly scanning for any drop in your level of attention. For example, let's say you usually reply to their texts within 5 minutes. Today you're busy, so you wait 2 hours. A healthy person would assume you're busy. But the vulnerable narcissist perceives those 120 minutes of silence as a targeted attack. They will send a check-in text that seems innocent, but is actually a probe, like, "Is everything okay? You seem different today." They are testing the fence to see if the gate is still open. Stage 2, weaponized fragility. When you don't immediately rush back to reassure them during stage 1, they move to weaponized fragility. This is where the vulnerable narcissist playing the victim truly begins to show their hand. The mechanism at work here is called learned helplessness. They present themselves as completely incapable of handling life or their emotions without your constant intervention. They use their pain as a leash. Imagine you tell them, "I need some space this weekend." Instead of saying, "Okay," they respond with a list of every physical ailment or emotional crisis they are currently facing. They might say, "I understand. I'll try to manage my anxiety on my own, even though my chest has been hurting all day. I don't want to be a bother." Now you are no longer a person who needs a weekend off. In this narrative, you are a person who is abandoning someone in a medical or emotional crisis. The focus has been successfully shifted from your need for rest to their need for rescue. Stage 3, the projective identification, the villain flip. This is the most confusing stage of the trap. This is when you start to feel like you are actually the toxic one,
In psychology, we call this projective identification. Here is how it works. The narcissist feels a deep sense of shame or badness inside themselves. Because they cannot handle that feeling, they project it onto you. But they don't just point at you. They behave in a way that actually provokes you into acting out that badness. For example, they might nag, guilt trip, and poke at you for hours. Eventually, exhausted and frustrated, you snap. You might raise your voice or say something harsh like, "Just leave me alone." The moment you snap, they relax. They have won. They look at you with wide, hurt eyes and say, "See, look how you treat me. You're so aggressive. I'm just trying to love you, and you're screaming at me." They have successfully moved their internal bad feeling into you. Now you feel the guilt, and they feel like the innocent victim. Stage 4, the moral high ground and the cold label. Once the flip is complete, the vulnerable narcissist moves to the moral high ground. They begin to use labels that strike at the very heart of who you are, especially if you are an empathetic person. The mechanism here is character assassination. They know that you value being a kind, caring, and supportive person, so they attack that specific part of your identity. You will hear phrases like, "You've become so cold lately," or "I don't even recognize this version of you," or "I guess you only care about yourself now." The reason this is a trap is because it creates cognitive dissonance. You know you are a kind person, but you are being told with great emotional intensity that you are cruel. Your brain tries to resolve this by thinking, if they are this upset, I must have done something wrong. You start to believe their version of reality because it's the only way to make the conflict stop. Stage 5, the calculated return to normalcy, the hook. The final stage of the trap is the most dangerous because it's the one that keeps you coming back for more. After they have punished you for your boundary and made you feel like the villain, they suddenly forgive you. The mechanism is intermittent reinforcement. This is the same psychological trick used in slot machines. If a person is mean to you all the time, you leave. But if they are mean and then suddenly kind, your brain gets a massive hit of dopamine. They might send a text the next morning that says, "I'm sorry we had such a hard night. I know I'm a lot to handle. I just love you so much it hurts. Can we just go back to how things were?" This feels like a relief. The weight of being the villain is lifted. You think, oh, they're apologizing. They do love me. You rush back to reassure them, and in doing so, you inadvertently teach them that their victim routine works. The boundary you tried to set in stage 1 is completely gone, and the trap is reset for the next time. So, what do we do with all of this? First, let's summarize. You are not being mean for having limits. You are not cold for needing a break. What you are experiencing is a sophisticated emotional system designed to bypass your logic and go straight to your guilt. I want to reframe something for you. The fact that you feel so much guilt right now is actually proof that you are not the person they are accusing you of being. A truly cold or toxic person wouldn't be watching a video at 10 p.m. trying to understand how to be better. Your guilt is a symptom of your empathy, and that empathy is exactly what they are using to keep the trap closed. One approach that some people find helpful is to stop trying to win the argument. In a no-win trap, the only way to win is to stop playing. This means when you receive that guilt-tripping text, you don't defend yourself. You don't explain why you aren't cold. You simply observe the pattern. Your one small step for today is this. The next time you feel that stomach drop guilt, I want you to say one sentence to yourself, either out loud or in your head. I am allowed to be a person, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Just notice the feeling. Don't act on it. Don't reply to the text immediately. Just sit with the discomfort of being the villain in their story, knowing that in your story, you are simply a person who is learning how to breathe again. I want to hear from you, and I know others in this community do too. Which of these 5 stages felt the most familiar to you? Was it the villain flip, or maybe the weaponized fragility in stage 2? Drop a number in the comments. Reading each other's experiences helps us realize that these tactics aren't personal. They are a pattern. And once you see the pattern, it's much harder for the trap to hold you. If this video gave you one new word for something you've been living through, that's exactly why I make these. Subscribe if you want to keep untangling these dynamics with me.